Welcome to the Career Change Podcast, where you'll discover the frank and practical advice and resources that are already proven to work in the real world when it comes to changing careers or figuring out what business is right for you when you are a smart but likely also stuck, overwhelmed, or overthinking person in your mid-30s, your 40s, your mid-50s. I'm your host, Rikke Hansen, a career change advisor, entrepreneur, and former corporate HR professional with over 15 years experience of helping thousands of people just like you identify or create careers or businesses that are both meaningful and future-proof. Welcome home. Hey, it's Rikke here. Welcome to episode 59 of the Career Change Podcast. Let's talk about how to escape the overthinker's negativity trap. Now, this episode is for you if you spend a lot of time inside of your head trying to think your way through your career change, trying to think your way through to starting a business. But in reality, if you're really honest, all you're really doing is just going around in circles and repeatedly kind of rehashing the same 3 to 5 fears of rather worst case scenarios over and over again. And as a result, you're therefore feeling more and more stuck as time passes. Now, if this kind of overthinking, going around in circles behavior sound familiar, then keep listening because you're very likely an overthinker. But not only are you overthinking when it comes to your career change, and not only are you not getting any further with your career change, but what's really happening is that you're likely also stuck in or repeatedly falling into what I call the overthinker's negativity trap. And the overthinker's negativity trap is not a nice or a positive place to hang out, and nor does it tend to lead to any real action or changes of results in the real world or to any clarity in your career. Now, you know that this negativity trap has got its claws in you if you consistently tend to see more and more problems and dead ends and negativity when it comes to your career change or own business, rather than specific solutions and way forward and pragmatic positivity. You're stuck in this trap if you feel like things are kind of out of your hands when it comes to your career change rather than you feeling in control. And that's no matter how smart you are. But here's the thing. If you actually want to change careers or start that business, we need to get you out of that trap and out of your head. So in this episode, what I want to do, I want to teach you a mini masterclass in how to escape the overthinker's negativity trap. And you know what? I've got you. I get you. A lot of my career change clients over the last 2 decades, they're often in the very same scenario when they first reach out to me for career change guidance. Many of them have spent years in this overthinking trap, this negativity traps. Some have even spent decades. And since I'm paid to get them clarity and results and to help them change careers, to help them start that business, I have had to source and also develop a lot of strategies and tools to help them combat their self-sabotage tendencies, in addition to also giving them highly concrete career change and business advice. Now, the main strategy we're going to use in this particular episode for escaping the negativity trap is to change the type of questions you are currently asking yourself about your career change, about your business. And we're going to replace them with questions that cut through your negative overthinking and that push you towards solution and action mode, which also is one of the fastest ways to get out of your head, to move from negative overthinking and problem focus and towards solution and action mode. Now, here's why you want to listen to this entire episode if you are an overthinker. Asking the right kind of questions can save you years of overthinking, which is great if you're like most of my listeners of this podcast and you're over 35. And that is really because asking the wrong type of questions have the power to keep you stuck and disempowered, whilst the right type of questions can give you momentum and most importantly can make you feel like you're actually in charge of your career change. Now, this might sound really simple and really obvious. So why are you not doing it? Why is this so bloody hard to do? Why is it so hard to focus on solutions instead of problems, even for a smart and accomplished adult like you, my dear listener? So before we get into the very practical strategies with regards to the kind of questions I want you to ask yourself about your career change, I want to explain why you keep falling into and why you keep staying stuck in this overthinker's negativity trap. Because understanding that, the why of this negativity trap is key. Because once you see it, why you're doing it, why you keep doing it, you cannot unsee it. And you will literally see this negativity trap pop up everywhere in your life. And knowing why you keep falling into it, why it's so powerful, will allow you to catch yourself before you fall into it. And it will also allow you to escape the trap much faster and much more frequently if you do fall into it. And that means that you can finally change careers, finally start that business. So let's talk about why you keep doing this to yourself. Let's talk about the negativity bias. Because if you repeatedly falling into this overthinker's negativity trap, there is a very good reason why you're doing it. What's really happening here is that you are experiencing the negativity bias. An evolutionary bias that's just trying to do everything it can to keep you alive and out of danger and out of uncertainty. Here's the thing, as humans, we are actually wired to focus the most on problems and risks and threats. And that's because our number one biological goal as a species is to ensure the survival and reproduction of our species. And to do that, we need to keep ourselves alive to do so, no matter the cost. In short, when you fall into this overthinker's negativity trap, you're doing so because you're focusing on problems and threats. You are literally just behaving like a good hunter-gatherer style human has behaved for thousands of years. You're just trying to stay alive and out of trouble that could lead to your demise. Here's the thing. You and I, we are mostly the descendants of worrywarts, people who worried, right? Humans who focus the most on avoiding dangers. That rustle in the bush, that might or might not be a wild animal out to kill you, but you better be on guard for threats and make a run for it. And here's the thing, this negativity bias may actually have protected our species from extinction for most of human history. However, nowadays, it's a terribly maladaptive bias for our modern world, which you've likely already noticed when it comes to your career change. Because when your survival reigns supreme, career change is really not a priority and could even be seen as a threat to your survival. Now, the important thing to remember here is this. Being a human living in this modern world where we no longer need to constantly fear for our lives or focus on our survival by constantly scanning our environments for problems and risks and threats. That is a very, very recent experience for us humans. But we are still wired to behave as hunter-gatherers. Now, I know that you might have heard about this negativity bias before, but I really want to hammer this point home because it will get in your way if you don't really, really get this. So I recently read a really great book by the Swedish psychiatrist and author, Dr. Hansen. That's Anders Hansen. Not part of my family. Lots of people in Scandinavia call Hansen. And it was a book called The Attention Fix. And in this book, he explains how we as humans have lived for over 95% of our time on Earth as hunter-gatherers. And that means that we've been constantly on the lookout for survival threats. Whereas only a tiny, tiny fraction of our history has been happening in a modern world where our daily survival isn't a primary concern anymore. And it's really important to understand how new this experience is for us as human, not to have to constantly worry about our survival. He illustrates this with a really powerful analogy. So if human history were represented by 10,000 dots, one dot for each generation of humans since our species emerged in East Africa 200,000 years ago. 10,000 dots. Only the last 8 of those dots would represent us living in a world with cars and electricity and running water and TV sets. Just 8 out of 10,000 dots. And only 1 out of 10,000 dots represent a world with smartphones and the internet. So what this means, and I'm quoting from Anas's books here, it means that the brain has been molded over aeons of time to fit the world in which it exists, a world radically different from the one that you and I are familiar with, who only make up the last few dots. End of quote. So just think about this, such a short period of time, 8 dots out of 10,000 or 1 dot out of 10,000. That is just not enough for our brain or nervous system to catch up with or reflect how the world works now. And that is why even nowadays in the 21st century, our brains still constantly scan our environments for bad news and threats and problems. And here's the issue. This tendency, this negativity bias can be debilitating and really unhelpful when we are trying to make changes in our lives or in our careers. Because when it comes to making any kind of change in your life or career as a human being, to change the status quo, so to say, you are up against thousands and thousands and thousands of years of an evolutionary nervous system wiring that is optimized for keeping you alive and surviving and procreating by making you pay more attention to what you perceive as threats and problems than it is to make you happy or to help you change careers. Right? So when you're trying to change careers, your nervous system will literally go, hold on, this new thing, this new uncertain things you're trying to do, are you sure it's not a tiger or a poisonous berry or someone trying to kill you? Right? That's literally what's happening. So do you now see how your negativity bias completely distorts your emotions and your view of the world and want to keep you stuck in that negativity trap that makes your career change impossible? Right? It's really, really important to understand this. All that's happening is you're falling into an evolutionary trap that's just trying to keep you alive, because you trying to change things means uncertainty and risks and threats and problems. And your evolutionary wiring do not want you to go there, right? So where do we go from here? We need to consciously override all negativity bias again and again and again, because it's not really optimal for the world we live in now, and then we've only lived in for a very short period of time. There's a great book called The Power of Bad by Roy Baumeister, who is one of the most influential social psychologists and who literally specializes in this negativity bias. And I like that he calls it the power of bad. And he says something that is really powerful and really helpful for us who want to change careers. So researchers have repeatedly found that bad things are at least twice as powerful as good things, and generally at least 3 times as powerful when dealing with emotions and relationships rather than with dollars and cents. For the good to outweigh the bad, that means the positivity ratio should be at least 3-to-1 and preferably a little higher. So we'll suggest a guideline that we've taken to calling the rule of 4. It takes 4 good things to overcome 1 bad thing. So this rule of 4 really just tells you that your negativity wiring will just keep looking for these bad things. And in order to overcome this negativity bias, we really need to override it by focusing on positive things to override it. Now, this is very, very different from Pollyanna, tendencies or toxic positivity. This is about being very aware of our evolutionary wiring and then thanking it for pointing out it might go wrong and to be aware of it, but don't let it stop you there. Move beyond it, right? You need to override your negativity bias again and again and again by focusing even more on problem solving and idea generation and taking control and figuring things out. You really need to proactively overcome this negativity bias by moving beyond it. Okay, so now you know why you're consistently falling into this negativity trap, this overthinker's negativity trap. You really cannot unsee it. From now on, you will see this negativity bias at play everywhere in your life. And you probably noticed this already. Just think about it. Oh my God, I see problems. I see threats. Yes, you are. You're wired that way. It's just no longer helpful, which is why we need to work so hard on overriding it. But now you also know that it's up to you to override this tendency if it's causing you trouble as a human being. Okay? So now you know the why. Why do you repeatedly keep falling into this? Let's get back to asking questions. So here is how this negativity bias, it impacts your career change questions and thereby makes you fall into the overthinker's negativity trap, right? The negativity bias. So what I want to do now, you know why you're doing this. Let's look at some concrete examples of how this negativity bias, it finds its way into how you likely ask yourself questions regarding your career change. So I recently got an email from a listener based in Northern Europe, Mikko, he's called, and he's been stuck in the same professions for decades due to this negativity bias. And literally this email from Mikko made me want to write this episode because he is literally nailing the negativity bias here. So he wrote me a very long email, but here's the key part of the email. And these are his exact questions. Hi, Rikke. My number one problem is that I don't have a number one problem. Everywhere I look, I find problems. I work in finance and IT, but I'm trying to branch into photography. Here are my questions. What if you have made a decision and started a business, but you don't know how to get clients? What if there's a lot of competition in this new line of work and I don't have a unique idea to stand out? What if you're afraid of running a business and business plans and financial management and tax, etc., just seem to go over your head? What if you're afraid of real clients, not just your relatives and friends of friends? What if you're afraid that your skills are not good enough to provide consistent quality? And what if your first real clients give bad reviews? Phew, can we all just stop for a moment and appreciate just how exhausting it must feel to have these kind of, worst case scenario problems swirling in your head at all times? And did you also notice with Mikko's questions, there's a real feeling of powerlessness to these questions. It's almost like everything is out of Mikko's hands. There's not really a feeling of ownership or positivity or I'll make this work. Right? There really is a real negativity bias here. Can you relate to this? What is your version of I am finding problems and threats everywhere with my potential business idea or with my new career? What is your version of this? Because I bet you can relate to this if you're an overthinker. What I really want you to notice here, and you might want to write this down, is I want you to notice that there is a clear pattern in this particular type of questioning that you might do yourself as well. And it literally follows this formula. And you might want to, like I say, write this down. What if plus worst case scenario? What if plus worst case scenario, right? That is literally the formula here. And that means that your negativity bias is doing a bloody good job of finding problems and threats to your existence, right? Or run away or freeze. If Mikko has lived as a hunter-gatherer, he would have gotten a gold star But since Miko and you, I assume, want to change careers or want to start that business, we need to focus on how we can override this maladaptive and no longer fit for purpose negativity bias. So let's talk about how to get out of the overthinker's negativity trap. Let's talk about how to really deal with that negativity bias. Here's the thing. If, like Miko, you only ever ask what if plus worst case scenario type questions, all you're really doing is just defining the problem, but you're still staying stuck in the overthinking trap. What you are not doing is going one step further and looking at actually solving the problem you've defined so you can get the outcome you want. To change careers or to start a business or to thrive, we need to move beyond optimizing purely for survival, right? And we need to override our outdated hunter-gatherer biases. Remember the rule of 4. We need to really work extra hard to overcome our negative tendencies. And the key strategy we're going to use in this episode is to shift your questions away from this problem-focused negativity bias towards a solution-focused, what I call proactive bias. This is how to escape the overthinker's negativity trap. We need to move from having a negativity bias towards a proactive bias. We literally need to take that next step of moving from pure problem focus with a negativity bias to having a solution focus and action bias. Okay? When we do that, that will help you stop viewing yourself as a passive bystander and stop being controlled by a maladaptive negativity bias. And instead, you become a proactive career changer who takes ownership of your transition by taking action. So the formula here is to replace what if plus worst case scenario questions with how can I figure this out, or what can I do to solve this type of questions? Let me repeat that. The formula here, and you might want to write this down, is to replace what if plus worst case scenario questions with how can I figure this out, or what can I do to solve these questions. Just notice the shift in energy here. This reframing and much better way of asking questions move you from being just a feeling like a passive bystander that's controlled by an outdated bias towards being a proactive career changer who realizes that not every new or uncertain experience is out to kill you. This is so important. So many times when I get emails from my listeners, these the questions that you ask often feel so powerless and like things out of your hands. I want you to really fight for your career change and feel like you're in charge. And one of the best ways to do this is there are 2 types of questions that are really powerful to ask here. In addition to how can I figure this out and what can I do to solve this? And these questions are skills-based and experiments-based questions. So I also want you to write this down, and I want to use these kind of powerful questions to get you unstuck. So I want you to ask skills-based questions. So what skills do I need to learn to solve this or to figure this out? Skills-based questions. I want you also to ask experiment-based questions. So what career or business experiments can I run to get real life or market feedback or answers? So experiments-based questions. What career or business experiments can I run to get real life feedback or market feedback or answers, right? What we are doing here, we want to shift the focus towards what is within your control to find out. Take the power back. What can I figure out? What can I do? What skills can I learn? What experiments can I run? How can I figure this out? Take your power back and focus on what is actually within my control to find out. That, my friend, is how you overwrite your negativity bias, but it's also how you can avoid feeling like a passive bystander whose career change or business somehow happens or doesn't. You really want to fight for your career change, right? You want this to happen, stand up for it. And here's the thing, skills and experiments are within your control to do something about. You can learn new skills, you can run experiments. That is absolutely within your control. So these kind of questions, skills and experiments-based questions, these types of questions are really helpful when it comes to your career change, but they're also especially helpful when it comes to starting a business. Now, skills-based questions, skills are what help you bridge the gap between where you are and where you want to be, especially when new skills are needed if you're going to do something you've never done before. And the great thing is, it's never been easier or more accessible to learn new skills. And there's rarely a need to go back to uni. Unless you want to be a surgeon or a neuroscientist, you rarely need to go back to full-time education or to university. Often people actually just use that as a delay or procrastination mechanism. There's so many ways to learn skills nowadays, online, part-time, immersion, whichever way you want to do it. So I don't want you to see this as another blocker, okay? Skills are so easily accessible nowadays. Also, experiments-based questions are helpful because experiments, they help you find out how or if something actually works in the real world. Overthinking does not. This is so important. And it's also easier than ever to run virtual or in real life experiments. You don't need to rely on any gatekeepers or anybody giving you permission to do that. There is so much democracy in career change nowadays. Skills and experiments are how you run this and how you take your power back 100%. Now, in some cases, we need to ask both skills and experiment-based questions, sometimes the one, sometimes the other. It can be helpful to start with one. And sometimes we might also want to include what I call who questions. So who can be related to your network or to the type of people who you want to help or who can help you. But by taking this next step, moving beyond the negativity bias and focusing on skills and experiments, you'll be much better equipped to navigate career changes and to start a business. Because what you're doing here is you're moving from overthinking, from being, really dictated by this negativity bias towards moving into taking proactive action and doing something that is 100% within your control. Do you see how powerful this is? You move from overthinking into action. Woohoo! Now there's an idea, my dear overthinker. When you move from overthinking to action bias, that's when clarity happens and you can start overriding your negativity bias. All right, application time. Let's apply what you've learned so you can get out of your blooming, bloody overthinking head and into action. And if you ever actually want to make your career change happen, that's what you should want to, all right? Because here's the thing, if you've never changed careers or run a business before, then a lot of what stands between you and your new thing, so that is actually you learning new skills and running experiments to get real life or market feedback. So here's the thing. You can either see this as scary and an opportunity to fail, and hence you can run away or stay stuck and be, behaving like a hunter-gatherer, or you can be really modern and you can take on board the challenge of learning new things and on solving juicy problems to see just how good your work life can be and just how much joy you can experience in this lifetime, rather than just staying stuck with a devil you know in a job you hate. All right? So remember what we're doing here. We're replacing what if plus worst case scenario questions with how can I figure this out, or what can I do to solve this type of questions? And more specifically, use skills or experiments-based questions, or also questions to do with the who. All right, so let's go straight into redoing and reframing Miko's questions. So number one, what if you have made a decision and started a business, but don't know how to get clients? Well, guess what? This is actually within your control to solve for. So Miko, how can I figure this out? Don't just define your problem and leave it there. What skills can I learn to attract clients to my new business? Ta-da! What skills can I learn? The obvious answer here to me as an existing business person is, what sales and marketing skills can you learn, or attraction skills, right? That is really, if you want to start a business, you're going to have to learn sales and marketing skills. That's how this works. So how do people get clients? They learn sales and marketing skills, and there's really no excuse for this. You can learn this online or offline, no matter where you live in the world. Miko was in the part of his email that I didn't read, saying he lives in a country where that's not really easily accessible. Well, go online. Everything is available online, especially skills like sales and marketing. And I really want to tell, for anyone listening here, if you are considering starting your own business, don't underestimate the importance of learning sales and marketing skills, because that is going to be clients are the lifeblood of your business. So you need to learn marketing and sales skills, unless you want to pay to outsource it, okay? But also, so that's a skills thing. You just need to learn sales and marketing skills rather than worrying about how to get clients. Just get over yourself and learn the skills. Also, what experiments could I run with regards to sales and marketing? This is something I see people waste a lot of time with. So instead of spending months overthinking whether you should start a podcast or YouTube or newsletter or paid advertising or use robots or whatever, just pick something. Start testing to find out. You could run a 3 months experience with one of those channels. The most important thing to know is to, first and foremost, you actually want to focus on where your ideal clients, they already hang out and what do they consume. If they're not on Instagram, there is no point in you going on Instagram. If they actually go on YouTube to get the kind of information that you're selling, then that's where you go, right? How can you most consistently and enjoyably get in front of them, right? And also make this easy and enjoyable for yourself. If you got the gift of the gab, maybe you want to do a podcast. Maybe you're great at writing. So maybe what you want to do is a newsletter or a blog or something to do with writing or edutaining. Pick that first and then run experiments to find out. You need to get in front of your ideal clients consistently. You need to find a way to remind them or even make them aware that you exist and what you are doing. Okay, what skills can I learn? What experiments can I run? Now, next question. What if there is a lot of competition in this new line of work and I don't have a unique idea to stand out? My business is photography. Here's the thing, both for Miko and for many of you listening, there is likely a lot of competition in what you're going into. If you are a regular listener of the podcast, you'll know that I think that's a great thing because that shows us there is money to be made. There are already people paying for this. Fan-fucking-tastic. That means there is money to be made, okay? So that also means it forces you not to be lazy and just hope for the best. So, Miko, how can I figure this out? What can I do? What unique idea could you come up with? And also note, a unique idea does not mean that it has to be a unique idea that has never been heard about before in the history of womankind, okay? Again, back to skills. What skills or knowledge can I learn to stand out in business? And when it comes to unique idea, how could you learn about this? What skills can you learn about having a unique selling point, having a unique idea? And also, everybody's different. What makes you different, Miko, and everybody listening? You might have an unfair advantage, a unique approach. You might also have a unique connection or relatability to a specific group of people that could be your ideal clients. Who do you most want to work with? What is the unique connection you have with them or the advantage that you have? And also, what experiments could you run to differentiate yourself from other photographers? But remember, I also said that you might want to ask who questions. So, ideal client group. What client group could you specialize in that would make it a no-brainer for your ideal clients to find you and to want to work with you and to make it easy for them to also refer other people to you because you really specialize in something unique, right? Let's say just throwing things out there. You really want to think tribal. Let's say specialize in pet owners or motorbike owners, or maybe have a virtual studio only, or things like that. What's really important to think about here is the worst thing you can do is trying to appeal to everyone, because then nobody's really going to feel connected to you. You will know this if you've ever seen marketing where they sort of try to appeal to everyone, then they appeal to no one. And this is important, this thing about niching down or getting clear about who your ideal clients are so you can stand out. A unique idea is often not just about you, it's also about your ideal client. How can you choose a client group, a unique client group, rather than just a unique idea? And new business owners, I've noticed, because I help a lot of people start their first business or start the right business, and I've done so for almost 2 decades. So what I've noticed is that new business owners are often afraid of niching down, but it's so much easier to attract new clients and stand out and to be memorable when you do, right? You really want to focus on what skills can you learn in terms of getting a unique client group, finding a unique selling point, unique value proposition. Really make sure you also focus on what's in it for your clients. But what I do recommend, if this is of interest to you, listen to episode 57 of the Career Change podcast. It's called Who Do You Most Want to Work With? I teach you a lot in there. Now, on to the next one. What if you're afraid of running a business? Worst case scenario, right? And business plans, financial management, taxes, etc., just seems to go over your head. Now, Miko and everyone else, give yourself some grace here. Of course, it's going to feel like this right now. If you've never run a business before, it might feel like a massive undertaking. But what you are really afraid of, if we nail it down here, is let's get real. How could you figure this out? What you are really afraid of is just a skill set, a number of skills that can actually be learned. And in this case, it's actually also a who thing. You can outsource a lot of this. But it also comes down to this, and I just want to mention this. A lot of people, they love the idea of running their own business, but not the reality of it when it comes down to it. There's a lot of admin stuff related to running your own business. And let me ask you this. Do you want a glorified, expensive hobby? Or do you actually want a business that makes real money and that allows you to leave the job you hate behind? Hello. When you are employed by someone else, those admin-y bits are generally taken care of by others. So of course, it will be a learning curve. However, if you are looking to start, like in this case for Miko, and for many of you listening to this, it's not like you are looking to start a complex, multinational, multi-layered business. So please don't behave as if. There has never been an easier or less complex time to learn the basic business skills, right? Whether it's online, your local council, your local library, wherever you go for help. And also, it's never been easier to outsource this, right? So that's also what's great. So not only these are skills you can easily learn, but also the who. These are also things you can easily outsource, right? So, but you want to learn the basics about this so you don't have people outsourcing you, messing you around. But again, also, what experiments can you run? One of the things I have definitely noticed as somebody who has run her own business for almost 20 years is that software are solving so many of these problems. I used to have to faff about in Excel and having to do my accounts and stuff like that and all the admin bits. Now there's software that literally takes minutes as opposed to hours. So play around with that and be curious about your learning style. Nowadays, I have software for a lot of the finance stuff that literally is actually enjoyable to use, which, oh my God, I can't believe how complex it was when I first started. So for those of you who are looking to start a business now, just know that so much of this is so much easier than it's ever been. And again, you're not starting a complex business. These are basic things you need to learn. And a lot of these you can outsource. So who, can you outsource to? But also, how can you run experiments to find out what kind of softwares you most enjoy using or what kind of people you most want to, have do these things for you? It does not have to be a worst case scenario. If you want to run a real business, this is just a skill set and some experiments that you need to get over. Okay. So next one, what if you are afraid of real clients as in not just your relative and friends of friends or friends of friends of friends? What if you're afraid that your skills are not good enough to produce consistent quality? And what if your first clients give bad reviews? Oof. Can you see? This is literally the equivalent of tigers rustling in the bush all over the place here, right? Woo, run away. This is scary. I might fail. I might die. It is totally, totally normal to feel like this. Clients. But here's what I would say to Miko and to you listening. If I was you, I would be a lot more afraid of staying stuck in a job I hate and never find out what I'm truly capable of doing career-wise, right? Tough love. Being afraid of real clients is like being afraid of real money. Your money will only come from real clients unless you have a massive and very generous group of friends and a massive group of friends, okay? So this is where it really comes down to how badly do you want this? This is where the idea of running a business versus the reality really hits. So what I suggest we do here is, do you want to run a business or do you want to run a charity, right? Or a very expensive hobby? So focus on what you can control. So let's ask, how can I solve this? How can I figure this out? Let's ask a skills-based questions. What existing photography skills do I need to work on improving? Or what new or additional photography skills do I need to learn, right? This is so important. When you are going into something that is very skills-based in terms of what you offer, you are committing to what I call a practice. And a practice is something that is not just one and done. It's something you keep doing and you keep improving over time. And you should want to, if you truly want to do photography or something else, whatever that thing is, you should want to keep doing it. You should want to improve. You should want to learn new skills. I have done this. My career change business is almost 2 decades old. I still keep improving my skills doing courses, learning things, keeping up to date, improving what I do. That is why I have the results that I have with my clients, because I keep improving. I keep asking myself, what more skills can I learn? How can I improve what I already got? What experiments can I run? And all of this. And you should want to do the same. You should want to commit to a practice. You should want to be afraid of not wanting to improve. So remember, you are new and you will improve. Just keep focused on your practice. Practice. What can you improve? What do you need to learn? This is going to be an ongoing thing. So rather than worry about it, you should want to set time aside to work on your skills on a regular basis and to improve them. But also, what experiments can you run? So start by focusing on offering services you already know that you do well. And be sure they're very concrete business offering. This is what they get when they work with you. Here's the thing, often bad reviews from clients are because they were really unclear about what they were getting. So focus on what exactly is it that you're offering and choose something. If you're a new business owner, choose something you already do well in. So the things you've been test running with your family and your friends, what did you get the best result with, the best feedback with? Start offering those kind of things that you have a certain level of comfort in and you know you get good results with. Start with those. Get paying clients for those, get great testimonials, and then you can also roll out additional other services. But focus first and foremost on offering what you already have good results with, you get good feedback with, right? And then you can get more advanced and risky over time in terms of what you offer, but get really clear about what it actually is that you offer your clients. And that last bit, what if your clients, your first clients give bad reviews? A lot of that you can control in terms of making sure they understand what they're getting when they work with you. But also, that bit about whether you're going to get bad review or not, and some of that is totally out of your hands, right? So don't worry about that, the bit that's out of your hands. However, what you should worry about is get the experience, improve your skills, focus on improving your skills, focus on running experiments, get the experience, get the knowledge, get the skills. Keep doing it. In 1 year, you will have 1 year experience. In 2 years, you have 2 year experience. If you wait, you will just have 1 more year's experience of being in a job you hate. Okay? So do it now. Focus on what you can control. You can control your skills, what you offer, your experiments. Don't be the passive bystander. But another thing that you will figure out down the line is that a lot of times client feedback, for better or for worse, is often the key to developing an even better business. Whenever you have a client giving you what you perceive as bad feedback, really listen to it and really digest it and really think about, what can I learn from here? You should actually be grateful for getting suggestions. It's up to you whether you want to incorporate them or not, but they can be really a way to make your business even better, right? And on. You get the gist. But what I really want you to see here, what I've done with this reframing, is you want to fight for your career change. Be curious, ask better questions so you can get the result that you want. You want to change careers, you want to start that business, ask the kind of questions that will make you do that. There are action-focused questions, not problem-focused ones. All right, over to you. Let's wrap this up. The key to escaping the overthinker's negativity trap is to consistently be aware of and to consistently override your hunter-gatherer tendency to constantly scan for threats and problems and worst-case scenario that will make you run away from uncertainty and from your career change. The negativity bias is real. This is ongoing and it takes real effort. Just remember the power of bad, the rule of 4. It takes 4 positive interactions/actions to override the bad, to override one bad. And remember, we might see ourselves as modern humans, but our brains are ancient. They're wired for a very different world than the one we live in now. You are no longer living in a world where you have to constantly worry about your physical survival. Remember, it's only the last 8 dots out of 10,000 where we lived in this new world. You are up against 200,000 years of wiring purely for survival. Be aware of it. Thank your negativity bias for doing its job, but then move on to problem solving and action taking. Don't just define the problem, but actively take the next step, which is to commit to finding a solution and taking action. You want to shift from passive problem focusing to proactive solution seeking and action. So remember, always ask, what could I do to figure this out? Or how could I figure this out? What skills can I learn? What experiments can I run? Who can help me with this? Or who can I help? Because by reframing your questions and focusing on what you can control, what you can learn, whether that's skills or information, and do what experiments we can run, once you do that, you will start moving away from being stuck and passive and problem-focused. You will leave the overthinker status behind. And you will move towards behaving like a solution-finding, proactive and action-taking career changer, because your career change will only happen once you get out of your head. And it takes time to override thousands of generations of nervous system conditioning. So don't wait. Start now overriding that negativity bias. And when you do, and when you do it again and again, that is how you get your career change or business off the ground. So if you're a real action taker, I'll see you over at thecareerchangepodcast.com. Thank you so much for listening.